Well, welcome everyone. It is terrific to see you all coming on the line, and welcome to our coaching cafe today. Happy Friday to you if you're listening to this live. And as we've just been discussing, we've got people dialing in from all around Australia and people from overseas as well. So Sherry has joined us from Chicago, which is very exciting. So today, this is Natalie Ashdown with you from Open Door Coaching. And today we're talking about breaking that procrastination, binging and perfectionist cycle. It's Thursday in Chicago. Yes, of course, 9 p.m. So today we're going to be talking about breaking that procrastination, binging and perfectionistic cycle. And we've only got a half an hour. So I think we should procrastinate no longer. Let's have a look. So before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians on the lands on which we meet today and their continuing connection to the land, waters and communities of Australia. We pay our respects to them and to their elders past, present and emerging. So in terms of our agenda for today, as I mentioned, we want to talk about this cycle of procrastination, binging, perfection, what we can do about that. I want to give you some practical tips about how we can actually use a coaching approach to looking after procrastination. And then, of course, look at some coaching questions as well. Now, that's a photo of me taken recently. I realized that my corporate photo, which I normally show for these presentations, well, it doesn't really look like me at the moment because I haven't had a haircut for a while. And so that's me delivering one of our programs with live over Zoom with all my beautiful colorful flip charts in the background. So that's my smiling face to you today. If you are new to our coaching cafe, welcome. We are all about creating a community. We're all about creating a shared learning experience and having thought-provoking conversations. And our coaching cafes come from our experiences throughout the last couple of weeks. So what are clients talking to me about in executive coaching? What's the theme going on in workplaces at the moment around coaching? Or what are the themes that people are thinking about in the workplace at the moment? And so then we bring those themes to our coaching conversations. It's not all about me. I'm very keen that you jump onto the chat. So the way you can interact and share your thoughts and comments is pop a message into the chat box, and I'll pick them up there and share them with everyone as we go. If you are looking to collect your ICF CCEs, then you can just easily send a message to support at Open Door Coaching and we'll give you that little certificate that is so precious that you need. And of course, it's all complimentary. So there you go. Welcome. If you're new, welcome. It's great to have you. And if you're a regular, we've got a lot of our regulars on the line. I love coming together every Friday with you all. So thanks for joining me once again. Let's talk about procrastination and what's getting in the way. So when we think about coaching, a lot of you will know that I love this formula. Comes out of our Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching. And it comes from Sir John Whitmore, I beg your pardon, from Tim Gallwey, and a little book, an awesome book that's quite a few years old now, called The Inner Game of Tennis. And in that book, Tim Gallwey with Sir John Whitmore, they talk about that performance, and when we're coaching, our performance is about our potential minus interference. So when we're coaching someone, we're coaching them towards high performance. Two sides of the equation we can actually look at. How do we bring out their potential through the coaching that we do? And also, how can we minimize interference? So if we're working on decreasing interference, that's going to lift performance. And if we're going to focus on potential, and we're bringing out the potential, then that will equal performance as well. And for any of you that hooked into our last coaching cafe where I talked about momentum, this is the second mathematical equation that I like to bandy around when it comes to coaching. It's a really interesting and easy thing to think about performance in this way. So when we're thinking about coaching and we're talking about procrastination, binging and perfection, then let's have a think about what's actually happening and what's getting in people's way. It's a good question to actually ask. So I'm thinking about this cycle. And I was trying to kind of conceptualize what is actually happening here. And these are my ideas, and I'd be really keen to hear what you think. So when you're procrastinating, for me, I know that I want to achieve a goal. So I know that there's something I want to achieve, but what's getting in my way? So why am I actually procrastinating? When we're thinking about coaching, that's where I like to start. So I know that I want to achieve something, but what is actually getting in my way? So feel free to pop a message into the chat box. Tell me what gets in the way of you getting on with stuff that you actually know you need to do. Um, for me, it might be because I'm a bit bored, or I'm a bit lonely. Like when I say lonely, I mean, there's no one around. I've got no one to collaborate with. There's no one I'm really working on this project, if you like. Tell me what you're thinking. Oh, that's a good one. Thank you, Cherie, saying scared it won't be good enough. Yeah, so it won't. So why I'm procrastinating, because it won't be good enough anyway. That's a good one. Yeah, distractions. Thanks, Alex. Fiona says too much on my mind, so I can't focus. That's yeah. I feel the same way. There's so much on my mind, you can't focus. Therefore, you're procrastinating. Yeah. Helen says she can always think of something else that needs to be done instead. Yeah, absolutely. You name it. Unpack the dishwasher, put the rubbish out, filing, sharp, whatever. All of a sudden I need to test whether my texters are actually all working or not. Gail, thank you. Fear of change, even if you want to do it. So there's some fear going on there. Yeah, yep, definitely. Um, Lynn says, I'm glad you said bored, because that's also an issue for me. Yeah, I noticed that recently. I'm just kind of bored with this task. That's why I'm mucking around. So yeah. Nandor says perception of more urgent tasks. Tracy says it's a matter of prioritization. And Kim says you might look foolish and embarrass yourself. So yeah, it's that kind of fear of the unknown, isn't it? I agree with you. Yeah, so there's lots of reasons why we're procrastinating. And what's interesting is if we can do some coaching around that, like get into the reality of what's actually happening, what's going on for you that's causing this procrastination. And if we can identify that it's a fear of looking foolish and embarrassed, or a fear, or we are feeling bored, then that's a really good, opportunity to move us forward. Maybe it's the task is too hard. Maybe it's too big. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's not your task. Maybe someone dumped this on you and you're like, well, why do I have to do it? And so that leads us into procrastination. What we do know, and this is the interesting thing I've been thinking about, tell me what you think about this. What I do know is that as the procrastination continues and those wheels turn on the procrastination, we're going around and around and around and around, stress starts to build up. So there's a couple of papers I read recently where the stress, and there's been some research done with like academic students that procrastinate for so long until stress starts to build up, and then they binge. Now what we mean by binge in this instance is the stress builds up and then I'm absolutely smashing that task all night or all day, or for the next 2 days I do nothing but that task, or I do an all-nighter to smash out that assignment or that piece of work or that work product. So what we talk about when we talk about binging is basically the stress is built up until to the point where we can't stand it any longer. And then we'll actually go into a binge, like we really spend all of our time on only that one task. Now here, it's actually good to recognize that that's some people's work styles. They don't mind it. They work and perform under pressure. They're completely comfortable with that approach, leaving it to the last minute, smashing things out, doing all-nighters, no problem at all. What it does cause though is stress. So whether that person, that's your preference or not, there is an enormous buildup of stress going on. that stress then flows into perfectionist. So I'm trying to smash this out, but I want it to be perfect, and I have to make it perfect because there's a deadline, and I haven't left myself enough time. And because I start to get perfectionist, I can go back into procrastination. So it's like these three wheels. It's not one leads to the other to the other. These three wheels are turning at the same time, and we are literally kind of grinding our gears. What we do know is that with every grind of those gears, the stress levels are building up. And so we started to have a think about, well, there's got to be a better way. What else can we do? How can we start to break this procrastination, binging, perfection cycle? Now, for those of you that know me, there's a reason why we're having this coaching cafe today, because I've been exploring this for myself as well. You know, I've been trying to get much more consistency. This year has been about, and well, not just this year, but I've been really trying to focus on consistency rather than big sessions of you know, smashing out work. Just nudging things along has been my real theme. So with that, there's a few ideas I have to offer you as well. Tell me what you're thinking. Some of you may be thinking, I'm exhausted just thinking about it all. So, and I can definitely agree with you there. I was putting this slide together and I was thinking about what is that cycle? What happens? What happens for me? What have I seen clients do? You know, why are they grinding their gears and spinning on their wheels? And I'm like, gosh, it's an exhausting process, isn't it? And quite stressful as well. So when it comes to coaching, those of you that are hooked into our last week's or the last coaching cafe was all about momentum and motivation. And I gave a little physics lesson, which we all thought went very well. So I want to give you just like three major tips, and you can start to jump onto the chat too about what do you do? What's your tip for overcoming and breaking this cycle? The first one is what we talked about last week during our coaching cafe, and that is breaking things down and nudging things along. So when we talked about momentum and motivation last week, we talked about a big mass moved along slowly has large momentum. So the elephant, the big mass, if we nudge the elephant along and that elephant moves slowly, then it can have quite large momentum. And you'll have to go back to the last week's coaching cafe to get the physics lesson on that. Alternatively, a small mass moved along very fast has got large momentum. So we know as coaches about chunking down and breaking things down, etc., etc. But what's interesting to me is about how that creates momentum. So anything we do where we break something big down, and if we've got a very big project, if we nudge that along a little bit every day, a little bit every day, that builds our momentum. It breaks the procrastination cycle, and it 100% breaks the binging cycle. Alternatively, if we have lots and lots and lots and lots of small tasks, and we do them quickly, very quickly, not the procrastination tasks, right? So I'm not talking about triaging email. I'm talking about taking our tasks, the important stuff, and making them smaller, and then knocking them off quickly. If we do that, we have really large momentum. So we've done one piece of the task, that's done nice and quick. We do the next piece of the task, that's done nice and quick. The next piece of the task, nice and quick. The next piece of the task, nice and quick. And then we've got that momentum, you know, it's starting to flow. We're stopping our procrastination, and we're not binging. So the stress is not building up. In fact, we're feeling quite good about ourselves. We're feeling pretty happy. So here it's about thinking about what is it we're actually trying to achieve and what's going to give us the momentum. I've got a post-it note, and this is why I'm sharing this with you. I've got a post-it note on my computer at the moment that says nudge things along. And the other post-it note says a little bit every day. So working on a big project, a big task, even if it's like our health goals, you know, whatever it is, our big goals that we've set ourselves, a little bit every day. And I know there's, I can see all the great coaches on the line. This will be obvious to you, but it's how we bring this into the coaching in order to help our clients break those cycles. So let me know what you're thinking, nudging along, or what your preference is there. The next tip is the most easiest, obvious tip that I did this week, because I was full on procrastinating about a paper that I had to write. And so this is what I did. I got out my phone, I set the timer to 15 minutes, and then I did a 15-minute block of work to build momentum. I'm like, you know what? Do 15 minutes. It doesn't matter what you do after that, just do that 15 minutes. So I pulled out, I was I was doing all sorts of, I knew I had to do something on my paper um, in my studies. And for some reason, I decided now would be a good time to put the spices together for a butter chicken that I want to make on the weekends. Like, but now is the perfect time to start putting, 1 teaspoon of garam masala and, and I thought to myself, pull out your phone, put the 15 minutes on, do it now. And I did. I went, okay. And so I put the 15-minute timer on my phone. I went, let's do it. Write anything. Do anything related to that task. So it's like, and that's what gets you the momentum. So for me, because I had to write something, I'm like, start writing anything. Just open up the document, start writing. Open up the thing, start reading it. So it's whatever you need to do, just get that phone out, put a 15-minute block, boom, and then you're on a countdown. Now, of course, what happens is the 15 minutes goes really quickly. You've got that lovely momentum and you're like, I'll just set that. So when it comes up as, repeat or stop, you can restart it. Just hit restart again. Now you've got another 15 minutes, and that goes really quickly because you've got that momentum. So I did this the other night, and I did 5 blocks of 15, and until I was like, I think I'll take a quick break. It was amazing, and the stuff that I actually got going and doing was fantastic. This is one of the most easiest tips that I was reminded about recently, and so it's not rocket science, but it really works. So there you go. Lynn says, this tip takes away from the all or nothing mode I get into sometimes. Yes, sorry, I agree. Joanne says that. Takes away from all or nothing that you can get into. Yes, I'm the same. It's like if I can't write the whole thing or finish this whole task, then I start to procrastinate. Yeah. Lynn says, top tip, I've written my own post-it note to nudge things along. That's great. A little bit every day, nudge it along. Yeah. And Kim says she loves tip 2 as well, and I agree. I've just been using it a lot lately, so that's why I'm offering it to you. The other thing also is, this was shared to me in the context of, if we want to be able to say run 5 kilometers, you could go out and just run 5 kilometers on one day and then you've done it. But then, of course, then you've got to recover. So these big all-nighters that you might be doing, or big sessions, you have a recovery period. And so if you go out and run, say 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers or whatever it is, if you haven't done that for a long time, you're probably going to find that you can't run for another week or 2 weeks. Like, I know for myself, I wouldn't be able to move for the next week. Whereas so that's going out running once for 5 kilometers. But if you go out running 5 times for 1 kilometer, and you do that, every couple of days, your stamina is going to build up, your cardio is going to build up, and over time, you've actually run the distance, but now you're building momentum. So they talk about this in elite sport. You could do 20 kilometers, or you could do 1,000 push-ups in a day, or you could do 10 push-ups a day, for 100 days. Over time, you're going to be able to do way more push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it might be. So you might start off with just 10 a day, and then you feel like I can actually do 15 or 20. So it's really interesting about what's possible if you actually take this approach. And the other thing is, if you're nudging it along, then you're not procrastinating. So you're getting out of that kind of struggle with procrastination. Mark says, tip number 4, I'm an ENTJ who starts lots of projects but struggle to finish the last 5 to 10%. He says, solution, marry an ISTJ. Yes. Absolutely. So a big picture thinker ENTJ who's got lots of exciting things and big projects on the go. Yeah, marry someone or get someone on the team that is actually, nah, we're going to finish this. We're going to sit you down and make you finish this, or work as a team to finish it. Yeah, marry an ISTJ. I love it. Thank you. And that actually leads us into the other point I had there, Mark, which is around leveraging our preferences. So the other tip I have for you, and I know there's a lot of people on our line that are doing a certificate for, or you've been through it, and you know you're familiar with preferences. So I'm offering you these ideas as well. If you think about MBTI, so if you're, how do we leverage our preferences around procrastination? Ease need to work with someone. They need to collaborate. They need a bit of energy around them. So we're in Melbourne, currently still in lockdown. You know, I remember those days when I used to go down to a cafe and do work down at a cafe just because I had the energy around me, and that stops me procrastinating. It builds momentum. So if we're leveraging our preferences, the ease can do it with someone. Mark can marry someone who can get them going. Eyes might prefer to do it alone. So they might go, you know what? Um, I need to lock myself in a room and just do this. I don't want to have people around me. I don't need the noise and the distractions. So that could be a really good way of going about it too. An S, you might, so the sensing in Myers-Briggs might focus on a particular detail to get going. So just focus on that one particular thing to get it moving along. The N's, on the other hand, are pretty well probably procrastinating because they are focused on the detail and how much they need to get done. So maybe focusing on the big picture is a good idea. Or N's, if they're too much on the big picture and it's too overwhelming, so don't focus on the elephant, focus on the mouse and how we can move a little thing along. Ross has got a tip here. He says, I imagine my task as little white knobs on a music mixer and each represents a task. Oh, I love that idea. I love the idea of the dashboard, the music mix. Oh, but you know, you can push them up with your fingers, the music mixers. Yeah. He says, then I imagine pushing each one forward a little bit, representing a nudge along. I love that as a visual. Thank you. So I've got, you know, a range of tasks that I'm going to move that volume up on that from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, you know, nudging it along until it's where it needs to be. I love that idea, Ross, because actually you could dial it down as well as dial it up, couldn't you? So that task is getting a lot of attention. Let's dial that one back just a little bit and dial up a couple of the others. I'm loving that. Yeah, very kinesthetic way of thinking about it as well. Our visual people with a visual preference, visualize it, draw it. Let's get an idea. Let's look at what it looks like. So that's another idea about how we can leverage our preferences. So think about all the different behavioral preferences we've got and how we can leverage those. So not just the Myers-Briggs, for example, but DISC preferences, our learning preferences we can leverage. AD, auditory digital, have to map it out. So let's map out the process. Let's sit down and draw out the plan. So I love watching my child actually overcome procrastination. He's got a whiteboard. He has it on the floor. He says, he writes down, he just maps out what he's going to do. He puts check boxes next to it and he starts ticking those boxes off. Yes, you know, he's a child of mine, just like his mama. Gail says, as an INTJ, she focuses on the big picture too much. So chunking it down means she gets started. Yeah, so you have the elephant, right? The NTJs, big picture thinkers, you know. So the best thing we can do with an ENTJ and INTJ is start, you know, getting a lot of little mice, getting a lot of the little pieces. Yeah, yeah. Great. So when we're coaching and we're thinking about the clients we're working with or in our teams, or anyone that we're working with, we're thinking about what are your preferences and how do we use this to actually nudge it along from a breaking that cycle point of view. Going to Bunnings also helps. Yes, it can often be expensive to nudge these, get these projects finished and nudge them along. Look at you showing off that you're allowed to go to shops. Yeah, thanks, Mark. So also, I'm really mad for the stop, start, less of, more of. So stop taking what's happening now. Thinking about what can we start. Let's face it, with procrastination, it's what do we need to stop? So we need to stop doing this, we need to start doing that, do some more of this, less of this. So that is a really neat way of thinking about how do we actually start to get that momentum moving. What a great question here too. So what has to change to get that momentum going? So I've been talking to clients about momentum and motivation over the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a really big theme. People are getting tired. A lot of people haven't had breaks. A lot of people are saying, well, I'm not going to go on holidays because where would I go anyway? Particularly if people are in Melbourne, like there's nowhere to go, people are saying. So I'm not going to take a holiday. And that's a real worry for me, a real concern from a mental health point of view. So if people are getting tired, if they're feeling the motivation and the momentum is not there, but I need to squeeze it out because we're heading to the end of the year. Then when we're coaching people, for me, it's about let's just stop for a second. Let's just do a bit of a stock take. What has to happen to kind of move that momentum? What can you start, stop, do more of, or less of? And for those of you who know, this comes from the agile style of coaching. So just throwing a few more of these tools at you to think about. And then when I'm thinking about it, it's a big reframe, isn't it? So we're kicking in our coaching questions when we're working with our clients. So kicking in our coaching questions, kicking in some discipline, and what we know that actually helps is helps build momentum. So I've swapped out procrastination, as you can see, for nudging things along. So just that nudging, as we're starting to nudge things along, we're starting to feel good. So rather than the stress building up, we're starting to feel good. I've swapped out binging for setting a timer. So setting a timer, let's just move that along a little bit. Let's just nudge that along, move it along. And because we're setting a timer, we're starting to feel good. Things are starting to get done. We're starting to achieve our goals. And so rather than getting caught up in that perfectionist cycle, which is the top one I had there, I've swapped that out for leveraging our preferences. So let's not do perfectionism. Let's do what we do best, which is leverage our preferences into the work we're doing. As we do that, we're getting things done, we're starting to feel good, we're achieving our goals, we've got that momentum going. And then we can reward ourselves by having a beautiful walk around the block, get some sun on our face, get some air into our lungs, stretch our bodies, get our bodies nice and stretched out, and then we can give it another go. Ross, so they're the ideas. Ross says, just to defend procrastination, I find it is my mind telling me to slow down. A better idea is coming, and it seems to work a lot. Thanks, Ross. I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because yes, I see procrastination in another way as well. I could be mucking around because I'm kind of preparing myself. I'm cleaning the slate. I'm wiping things clear, so that I can reset myself. So some of the procrastination is about a reset. It's about a tidy up. It's about a reset. What I'm conscious of is that how long it goes on for. So am I now like full on procrastinating, or am I resetting? So I'm really conscious about what's going on there. I'm also distinguishing, like you're doing, Ross. I'm distinguishing between, am I procrastinating or am I thinking? Like, is this real thinking time? This is not procrastination. This is part of the process. It's part of slowing down. It's part of the thinking. It's part of giving yourself the opportunity to come up with those better ideas. So, you and I both, we all have to think about, let's keep it real here. What is actually going on for us? Which is the first question we asked. Am I just literally just stuffing around? Um, or am I part of the process, part of the thinking process, part of the reset process? What's actually going on? For me, it's about time. How much time? What am I actually doing? So it would be better for me to do that thinking by walking around the block or going for a walk or writing. Then can't, yeah. But anyway, it's good to have a think about. So there you go. Some ideas about breaking our procrastination, binging, perfectionist cycle. I can see that we're right on 12:32. But anyone want to jump in with a last comment before we say goodbye to each other? Great question, Mark. Yeah, do you celebrate every small success? Yeah, that's a really good question. So, the question is, how can we celebrate the small successes? Do we? It's probably up to you, isn't it? I love that idea. But yeah, if you've the way I like to celebrate success is if I've done 4 blocks of 15, to celebrate that success and how I'm going. A nice walk around the block, or a nice, if you're allowed outside, or a nice stretch, a nice go get a glass of water, and then we can sit down and do more, or change the scenery or something like that. Don't forget, if we've got big projects, we might swap projects and nudge another one along as well. So there's, lots you can do there to celebrate success, which doesn't mean, stuffing your mouth full of chocolate and whatever. So that's a good idea as well. Well, great, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome for those of you that are new to the Coaching Cafe. I'm glad that you've joined us. We've got the Leader as Coach program going on. We've got the mental health first aid program going on. They're just 2-day programs, or the mental health first aid is a shorter program as well. So if you want to support us and get involved in coaching, you want your people to start thinking about coaching, Leader as Coach. And for all coaches, we're really, and leaders, we're encouraging mental health first aid. We were doing it before COVID, before it became really important. Before mental health during COVID became a really highlighted thing in the media. We've always felt this is extremely important. So yeah, it's an opportunity to jump in and look at gaining the awareness around mental health first aid as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a fabulous weekend. Enjoy nudging those weekend projects along. Enjoy the sun if you've got it. And I look forward to catching up with you. And yes, thanks, Gail. She says, great follow on from last week's momentum. So yes, enjoy your weekend, everyone. Enjoy nudging those programs along. And I'll look forward to catching up with you at our next Coaching Cafe. Enjoy your coaching. I'll say goodbye for now.